Hello, witchlings. Don't mind me, I'm chugging coffee today. Before I get completely started, just a heads up, the puppy man is at the veterinarian. He had surgery today. He is out of surgery and doing okay. They did have to place a drain in his chest. One of the bites isn't draining and healing the way we would like it to, so I had to rush him up there this afternoon, hence why we missed our daily draw. I apologize, but, well, my puppy comes first. Next, yes, I'll let you know. He had to have surgery and had a drain put in. He's okay. I am actually, as soon as I am done, I will be going and picking him up, but he is fine. He's going to survive. Oh, whoops, that's right. Thank you. I forgot I am backwards. When talking to the therapist earlier today, Messenger flips and Restream does not, or the other way around. So yeah, it hurt. So Sergeant is okay. He came out from under the anesthesia just fine. He's a happy puppy. They're letting him, wake up and kind of become more coherent, and then Mom will take Took and go receive him. Yeah, I know it is kind of funky hanging here. But let me see if I can. Nope, because I need the tablet. So you know what I'm going to do? You are going to get tucked and choke myself with it. All right. Before I fully get started, I want to give a major, major, major trigger warning. I will be discussing one of the most sensitive subjects there is today. We are discussing child sexual abuse. Having had the opportunity to watch the documentary Quiet on the Set, and as a survivor myself, I really feel called to address this topic today. I've got resources here in front of my nose. I have my notes. I always have notes. I wanted to bring up the statistics first. So, just a heads up, if you or someone you love is a survivor and this is a triggering subject for you, you may want to click away and go surf Facebook for a while. It's probably going to be less triggering. I am a survivor. That's the plan from here. I am being reminded to simply say CSA so that, the sensors and algorithms don't flag me for inappropriate content. So, full disclosure, I am a survivor. We believe it started for me when I was about 2. It did not end until I was 6, when my perpetrator left home. I have been diagnosed with complex PTSD. I have dissociative identity disorder. Neither of these can be faked. Neither of these can you easily convince a doctor to diagnose you with just because you want them. And to be honest, I don't know anybody who would just kind of want them, because they are not fun. So this is a topic very near and dear to my heart. And it's also incredibly hard to talk about. So we are going to start with some statistics, and I will remove the ginormous hearts from my eyes. I'll give my wonderful goddess of death here a chance to say what she's saying. Again, if this is a subject that is triggering for you, please keep yourself safe. I do not want to trigger anyone. I do not want anyone contemplating hurting themselves over something I have said that would devastate me. I do want to let one other friend know that we are live because he did say he would try to be here. Okay. CSA, the prevalence is incredibly difficult to determine because it frequently is not reported. The incidence is far, far greater than reported. It's also not uniformly defined, so statistics can vary from state to state, province to province, county to county. Break it up into chunks, kiddo. Some basic stats. 1 in 5 girls, 1 in 20 boys is a survivor. Self-report, 20% of adult women, 5 to 10% of adult men recall at least one childhood sexual assault or abuse SA incident. I'm trying to remember to not use the full words here. During a 1-year period in the US, 16% of youth ages 14 to 17 had been victimized. Over the course of their lifetime, 28% of US youth between the ages of 14 and 17 had been victimized. Children are most vulnerable to CSA between the ages of 7 and 13. That's interesting. Put spaces and link to RAINN. According to a 2003 National Institute of Justice report, 3 out of 4 adolescents who have been assaulted were victimized by someone they knew well. Let that sink in. Bureau of Justice stat, 1.6% or 16 out of 1,000 children between the ages of 12 and 17 are survivors or were survivors. In 1986, a study found that 63% of women who had suffered abuse by a family member also reported an assault or an attempted assault after the age of 14. Studies in 2000, 2002, and 2005 have all concluded similar results. Children who had an experience of an assault or an attempted assault in their adolescent years were almost 14 times more likely to experience assault or an attempted assault in their first year of college. 14 times. That is scary as fuck. I will be honest. A child who is the victim of prolonged abuse, prolonged, usually, let's see, come on. Oh, it's not letting me. Aha. Let's see if this works. I am trying to share the phone number. Give me a moment. A child who is the survivor of prolonged abuse usually develops low self esteem, a feeling of utter worthlessness, and an abnormal or distorted view of sex. Not surprising, correct? There we go. Ah. Number is there now. I know that I personally dealt with that a lot after mine. And the statistics are very accurate. I'll get more into that momentarily. The child may become withdrawn and mistrustful adults, and trying to figure out how to word this to avoid the censors as well, can want to end their own life. Children who do not live with both parents, as well as children living in homes marked by parental discord, divorce, or domestic violence, have a higher risk of being abused. In the vast majority of cases where there is credible evidence of penetration, only between 5 and 15% will have injuries consistent with abuse. CSA is not solely restricted to physical contact, however. Such abuse could include non-contact abuse, such as exposure, showing themselves to the child, voyeurism, watching the child, and child porn. Compared to those with no history of abuse, young males who were abused were 5 times more likely to cause a teen pregnancy, 3 times more likely to have multiple partners, and twice as likely to have unprotected intercourse, according to a study published online and in a June print issue of the Journal of Adolescent Health. Those are some pretty scary statistics. Now let's define what is CSA. All touching between an adult and a child is SA. Thank you, love. Okay. Give me a moment. Apparently I did not realize that I forget I'm broadcasting to multiple channels. So allow me a second to hit the other channels that I am broadcasting to so that I can, be intelligent here. Pause that so it doesn't start screaming at me. There you are, my friend. Da-da. There we go. There we go. There is that. All right. Um, SA, CSA does not have to involve penetration, force, pain, or even necessarily touching. If an adult engages in any type of behavior, looking, showing, or touching, with a child meant to meet the adult's interest or needs, it is abuse. Some examples of non-contact includes an adult exposing themselves, showing pictures or movies, inappropriately peeking in while they are less than fully dressed, and self-pleasuring in front of a child. Contact can include making the child touch another child or an adult, putting objects, body parts, or a mouth where it does not belong, and any other type of touching between an adult and a child. CSA also includes the manufacture, distribution, and viewing of, which is now referred to as CSA material. I like that better. This kind of touching between children can also be harmful or abusive when there is a significant age difference, usually defined as 3 or more years. In my case, it was 12 between the children. If the children are very different developmentally or size wise, or if it involves adult like behavior from an older to a younger child, which was the case in my case. And it is often a gradual process. Most often, CSA is a gradual process and not a single event. By learning the early warning signs and how to effectively step in and speak up, it can be stopped before it starts and a child is harmed. There are many, many sites where you can learn the signs and symptoms. Well, not symptoms, but you know what I mean. Oh, let's see. I have a link from Rain. Ironically, there is a link from the VA here. I'll be getting to that one. I liked that one. Some myths. This one was big for me. So, the parents are at fault and they should protect their child better. This is one that is coming up in comments all over the web in the case of Drake Bell, that his father saw it coming and his abuser very skillfully cut his father out of his life. And his dad was like, okay, if this is what Drake wants, I will step back. Drake was 15. So his father, when Drake said he wanted to go live with his mom, wanted his mom to be his manager, etc., he said, okay, whatever you want. He did not want to detonate his relationship with his son. So he went to his ex-wife and said, this man is a threat to our son. I do not like the way he behaves towards our son. Do not ever leave them alone together. She did it anyway. So many people are going, she should have known. She should never have let it happen. Drake and his father both are saying no. He was a master manipulator. Let's not blame mom. So the fact behind this one is parents are often accused of not protecting their child. However, This attitude shifts blame and enables offenders to avoid responsibility for their actions. The offender is always the person who is responsible. Note, while the perpetrator is always the one who is primarily responsible, we acknowledge, and this is coming from the website that I'm at, and it is a website out of Australia. We acknowledge that adults who know about the abuse and do nothing to stop it or protect the child definitely have a level of responsibility. The next myth is the offenders are mostly strangers. 70 to 90% of the cases, the offender is someone the child knows and the family trusts. People who abuse their own children are not a danger to other children. CSA offenders rarely engage in a single offense. A person who offends against their own children may offend against other children. This one pisses me off that people actually think this way, but I know they do. Children invite the abuse by acting seductively. No child wants to be abused. Adults have power over children, and they must not manipulate and abuse this power. Incest and abuse only occur in poor families. This can occur in all kinds of families: rich, poor, big, small, well educated, or uneducated. Does not matter. Some children enjoy the attention they're getting from adults and it doesn't harm them. This is the biggest crock of bullshit I have ever read. It has many, many harmful effects on children, and survivors often require support regarding these. It can result in children experiencing fear, confusion, guilt, shame, and sadness. These feelings may occur for a variety of reasons. The child didn't say no or try to stop it, so the child is partly to blame. A common stress response is to freeze, and this may prevent a child from responding or saying no. Adult offenders are always to blame, as children are unable to consent. My abuser, and this will come up in one of the other sites that I will reference. My abuser was notorious for having a very bad temper, very violent temper. And he told me that if I ever told anyone, he would get very mad at me. Now, imagine being a small child and having seen this person get violent over relatively minor things before. And being told, well, if you tell, I'm going to get mad. I was honestly terrified he would kill me. So, just saying. Children and young people lie about the abuse. 98% of these reports by children are found to be true. 98%. Children can misinterpret and wrongly accuse an adult of abuse. Children often disclose long after their abuse has started. The offender often uses behaviors such as accidental touching or tickling to defend their behavior and blame the child. A child's disclosure should always be acknowledged and taken seriously. Incest and CSA is quite acceptable in some cultures. There is zero evidence to support this. The cultural significance of this can vary between cultures, which is true. It's not harmful. It's the fuss that adults and CPS and legal authorities make that is the problem. In some cases, intervention can be distressing. However, this should never be used as an excuse by people to not speak out and to allow the abuse to continue. In surveys of survivors, most children described negative effects during the time they were being abused. And finally, this is where we go. If a child discloses the abuse and then retracts their statement, they're lying. Pressure is mounted on a child following disclosure. Consequences of disclosures can include family breakdown, parental distress, and other effects. Retracting their statement may be a child's attempt to return their situation to normal. They don't want the family to break up, or they're being told, because you told on Uncle Billy, mommy and daddy are now going to not be able to be part of the family anymore. This shit actually happens. And it's disgusting. And finally, let's see. We'll go to the VA here. The link I am following from the VA is for PTSD because CSA is one of the leading causes of complex post-traumatic stress syndrome and PTSD. Generally, the difference between CPTSD and PTSD, I'm sorry, you can't see my hands. PTSD is oftentimes caused by a one-off event. CPTSD is caused by multiple. So, yeah. 60% of perpetrators are non-relative acquaintances, such as a friend of the family, a babysitter, or a neighbor. 30% are relatives, such as parents, aunts, uncles, or cousins. Strangers are perpetrators in only 10% of cases. Men are often, regardless of whether the victim is a boy or a girl. However, women are perpetrators in about 14% of cases reported against boys and 6% against girls. The effects. Some CSA survivors may show symptoms of PTSD, including agitated behavior, frightening dreams, and repetitive play in which aspects of the abuse are expressed. They might exhibit other fears and anxieties, or regress and begin things like bedwetting again or back to sucking their thumb. They may show inappropriate sexual behavior or seductiveness, or have difficulty maintaining appropriate boundaries with others. I did not start wetting my bed or sucking my thumb, but I did very definitely show the inappropriate behavior, and I never had appropriate boundaries. As a result of abuse, children, especially boys, may act out with behavior problems, such as cruelty to others and running away. Other children act in by becoming depressed or by withdrawing. Older children or adolescents may injure themselves or attempt to end it. And I don't mean the abuse. It can be very confusing for children. A child who is used or manipulated by a trusted adult may learn that the only way for them to be attended to or loved is for them to give something of themselves or give up their dignity. That was me. Some children believe the abuse is their fault or that the perpetrator chose them because they must have wanted it or because there's something wrong with them. If the abuser was of the same sex, the children or their parents might question their sexual orientation. Almost every survivor describes the abuse as negative. Most children know it is wrong and experience fear, shock, anger, and disgust. However, a small portion may not realize it is wrong, especially if they are very young or are cognitively delayed. I was extremely young. In addition, they might enjoy the attention, closeness, and physical contact, especially if these needs are not met by a primary caregiver. That would be me again. Together, these reactions make the events very difficult and very confusing for children. If it is not effectively treated, long-term symptoms can persist into adulthood. These can include PTSD or anxiety, depression and thoughts of anxiety and disorders, including promiscuity, difficulty maintaining appropriate boundaries with others, including enmeshed or avoidant relationships, poor body image, and low self esteem. The use of unhealthy behaviors, such as alcohol and drug abuse, self mutilation, or binging and purging, to help mask painful emotions related to the abuse. I was a cutter for years. So, how can we keep our children safe? Talk to your children. This is the most important. Communicate with your children. Talk to them about the difference between safe and unsafe touching. Tell your child that if someone tries to touch their body in their private areas or they try to do things that make the child feel unsafe, they have every right to say no to the person and to tell you or another trusted adult about it right away. Let your children know that their bodies are private and that they have the right to forbid others to touch their bodies in any way. I am changing what the VA says here. I am saying in any way. Let them know that respect does not always mean doing what adults or those with authority tell them to do. Let me repeat that. Teach your children that respect does not mean they have to blindly obey every adult. Do not tell them to do everything the babysitter, family member, or group leader tells them to do. Alert children that perpetrators may use the internet and monitor your young children's access to websites. Most importantly, provide a safe, caring environment so your children feel that they can talk to you about this. Along with this, do not ever force your children to hug or kiss anybody. I don't care if you get a guilt trip. Oh, you're hurting grandma's feelings if you don't give her a hug. Oh, but Papa's heart gets broken if you don't give him a kiss before you leave. Tough fucking shit. That child's body is their body. They said no. You respect it. Because if you force a child to hug and kiss someone they don't want to, all you're teaching them is their boundaries don't mean shit. So you can tell them all of this stuff here that I'm reading, but if you make them give that aunt that they don't want to hug and kiss a hug when they come and go, or if they don't feel like giving grandma or grandpa a hug this time, and you force the issue, all you've done is tell them, Yeah, so I'm telling you that you're allowed to set boundaries, but I'm gonna walk all over him because I don't like that. No, a child is allowed to say no, and you will not force the issue. Sorry, that one is a very touchy subject for me. I know too many kids who are forced to give hugs and kisses. Let's see. And then finally, my final note here is, was I abused? Here are some more signs of if your child or someone you know has been. Abnormal knowledge or behavior. I was 5 years old and would regularly rub myself raw. That was an abnormal behavior. Most kids don't generally start touching themselves like that until at least 10, 11, and they really don't do it to the point they're raw. Avoidance of physical contact. Attempting to run away. Bleeding or bruising of their genitals. Blood on their underwear or their underwear is torn. Changes in their hygiene, such as frequent bathing or they stop bathing. Frequent yeast infections. Um, just so you parents of little girls know, it is not normal for a girl under the age of, say, 10 to develop yeast infections on a regular basis. Pain or burning in the genital area, self harm, signs of depression, signs of PTSD, sudden phobias or fears, sudden trouble at school, ideation. I hope you know what I mean by that. Or one of the most obvious is trouble walking or sitting. A child may also start to be overly protective of their friends or siblings. This is known as taking on a caretaker role. Grooming. Okay, so groomers and grooming is a big keyword in the media right now. So, with CSA, the perpetrators often exhibit a pattern of behavior called grooming. This is a strategy used to disarm victims and their families into trusting them, making it more difficult to detect them as an abusive POS. For instance, they will often take on a parental type role, sometimes even choosing professions that allow them to get close to children. Teachers, scout leaders, religious leaders, babysitters, um, yeah, daycare workers, that's the word I was looking for. They are likely to develop close relationships with the child and their family. They may also desensitize the child to touch or, touch them harmlessly multiple times before violating them. The offender will hide behind these and other tactics to assure that their transgressions are not revealed. Physical, they may have physical injuries and STIs. They have traumatic experiences have also been associated with an increased risk of chronic health conditions later in life, such as obesity, cancer, and heart disease. Um, Dissociation is a common mental defense or a psychological defense, hence why I have dissociative identity disorder. Because they are so emotionally painful, recollections of abuse are often buried deep. Difficulty recalling childhood memories may be an indicator of past exposure to trauma, such as this kind of abuse. The consequences of abuse can manifest in various ways. Abuse in childhood is also linked to higher rates of depression, PTSD, substance abuse, risky behaviors that may result in STIs or unplanned pregnancies. Um, Hypersexuality or addiction is also more likely to occur in survivors of abuse. In some people, food addiction or eating disorders such as anorexia and bulimia may also be triggered by the abuse. We all realize that the risk of taking your own life increases for someone who has experienced CSA. And re-victimization, the effect on relationships. Re-victimization is also likely for a survivor. For instance, women exposed to abuse as children are 2 to 13 times more likely to experience abuse again as adults. I was abused until I was 6. My first rape happened when I was 14, my second when I was 18, and again when I was 24. In addition, someone who was sexually abused as a child is 2 times more likely to experience domestic abuse by a future partner. Been there, done that too. There's a reason I'm on spouse number 4. My man picker sucks. Um, for treatments, we want trauma-focused treatments, often including therapy to process the experience and medication to manage symptoms. Um, if a family of a child who recently experienced abuse is seeking treatment, they are often assigned a case manager who will connect them with a team of professionals, which is awesome. There are several different types of therapies for survivors, depending on whether you're an adult or a child, that you may be recommended for different types of therapy, different treatments. For children, trauma-focused cognitive behavioral therapy. Let's see. Is a therapeutic approach specifically for children who are survivors of trauma. Excuse me. It has been found to be effective in lessening the symptoms of anxiety, depression, and PTSD. It also helps address the child's underlying thoughts and fears related to the trauma. The child's parent or caregiver attending sessions with them, unless they are the perpetrator. Any symptoms of PTSD the parent may have with regard to the abuse are also treated during these sessions. Family therapy is often also recommended in addition to CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, will address any negative thoughts or feelings you have. A therapist will work through these with the client, as well as address any undesirable behaviors the client is engaging in that may be related to the trauma. FYI, if you are neurodivergent, CBT does not work quite as effectively because our brains are wired differently. So, prolonged exposure therapy and cognitive processing therapy have the person relive the traumatic experience and form a new narrative. In this way, they regain power over their story. The aim is to be able to handle situations that may have previously triggered them, as well as reframe limiting beliefs such as "I am not safe" into a more positive outlook. EMDR, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, is a more experimental therapy and has not been proven. Oh, really? Ha! This article must be older. EMDR is very, very, very common in treating trauma today, and it is very popular and very effective. You definitely an older article because it mentions SSRIs. SSRIs don't do shit. Um, to cope with CSA, engage in self care. Taking care of yourself is important, but especially so when you're dealing with trauma. Eating healthy, exercising, getting the rest you need helps regulate your nervous system. This is very important when you're dealing with trauma because it can help alleviate some of the symptoms of your anxiety and your depression. Also, when you are in a highly triggered state, try not to watch the news. And control your environment to the best of your ability to minimize triggers. And also, finally, don't pressure yourself. While a lot of people are sharing their stories, like me, you may not want to, and you don't have to. Nobody says you have to share your story. Just know that you're not alone. That is why we share our stories. Journaling. Journaling has been hugely helpful for me to write down all of the bullshit that runs around in my head. Um, Reach out. Do not feel like you have to go through this by yourself. Um, Even if you don't tell exactly what you're going through, reach out to your friends and family just so you're not alone. Just hang out, watch a TV show, listen to music, play video games, just have company. Because sometimes having someone there helps you get out of your own head. Dealing with my CSA has been difficult. And to be honest, the absolute worst part of it was when I finally got brave enough to tell my incubator that her firstborn child did that to me. This was after my rape, same year, but after my rape. She looked me in the face and said, "No, he didn't. You're just saying that because you want him to get in trouble." I have no words for that. This is the same woman that when I told her I had been assaulted, she said I hadn't. And then she slapped me when I told her that I had, and I insisted that I had. So we all know she wasn't the best mother. That's why she's the incubator, not my mom. So if someone you care about opens up to you and tells you that something happened to them, please believe them. Don't say, "Oh, he wouldn't do that," or, "Oh, she's not that kind of person." No, 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 no. Don't. I don't care what you think of the person they're telling you abused them. You believe them. If it comes out that it's not true, okay, they're a liar. But you know what? At least you tried to be supportive. Because honestly, more often than not, it's the truth. There is a reason why, out of a family of 6 people, my parents and 4 children, I have 3 older brothers, I have one that I speak to. My parents are gone. My dad was amazing. I miss him. 2 of my brothers I have no contact with, and one brother I am slowly rebuilding my relationship with because the incubator did her damnedest to destroy it. Damn near succeeded. All of this because I came out and was honest about my abuse. So it's hard. And I know damn good and well if my abuser or his brother or that one's wife ever catches wind of this podcast, I will hear no end of it. Never mind the fact that, I haven't dropped any names. I just said it was a brother. So I do have a website out there that details my story, though. Thank you guys for listening. I will share on socials links to RAINN. I will be posting the SA hotline and some other pertinent information for you. However, I need to go rescue my puppy. So, thank you guys for joining me. This has been one of the hardest podcasts I've done so far, and I appreciate your support. I will see you tomorrow for the daily draw. Hopefully, we will be back to normal by then. And then tomorrow night, we have guided meditation. And then I managed to clean up the chaos in here. So we should be able to do yoga Saturday afternoon. I am looking forward to that. So have a fantabulous, wonderful, magical night. Spread love, spread joy, spread kindness. And whatever you do, tell your loved ones that you care. You never know when you're never going to see them again. I'll see you guys tomorrow.